afternoon, everyone. My name is Shobhit Jain. Thank you for the warm welcome. And I am extremely obliged to be presenting in front of such a esteemed group of individuals. I will be talking about the connectivity trends in digital transformation for utilities. We've talked about applications, a lot of equipment and everything. But end of the day, if those equipments and everything are not connected, it's really a lost cause. So before I go into the trends though, I would like to just give you an overview about Commscope, because this is for the benefit of those people who are not aware about what Commscope does and what we really are, in which business vertical we are. So we are a strong $8.4 billion organization, and we have over 25,000 employees across the globe who are coming up with new solutions and products to meet the challenges of customers today. We have over 15,000 patents in our portfolio. That gives you an idea that we are a very innovation-centric organization. And we are mostly divided into 4 groups, whether it's the venue and campus networks, broadband networks, outdoor wireless networks, and even home networks. And we are present in over 200 countries across the globe. And we have a good, very strong supplier base of 2,800 suppliers who are responsible for reaching all our products to every nick and corner of the globe. In India, for example, we have over 10 offices with a very state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in Goa, which manufactures products not just for India, but also for all the global, other countries across the globe. In fact, only 10% of the products which are manufactured in Goa are used in India, and 90% of them go outside of India. So we are a very strong believer of the Make in India initiative by our government of India. Just to give you a very quick snapshot of all the different types of solutions and products that we have in our portfolio. So, and it will also tell you in which geographic areas we really are a very strong players. And for example, in the residential area, we have got video encryption products, we've got set-top boxes, we have fiber to the home kind of solutions, fiber solutions, copper solutions, and whether it is venue campuses for airports, stadiums, large campuses, educational manufacturing facilities, manufacturing plants. We have solutions like distributed antenna systems, Wi-Fi systems. We've got small cell antennas. We've got fiber optic solutions which are responsible for the connectivity within this campus. And then a very strong area of Commscope is where in the data centers or the enterprises, where we've got solutions for the structured cabling solutions for horizontal cabling. We've got backbone cabling. We've got service antenna analytics softwares. We've got intelligent softwares, intelligent solutions in our portfolio. So let's go into the trends. That was just to give you an idea of what Commscope is all about. So we've all been talking about networks here, and it's true, networks are becoming harder, they're not becoming easier. And primarily because more and more applications are now latching on to these networks, whether it is IoT, mobility, security cameras, building access, or even lighting for that matter. And because of these new networks or these new applications coming onto the network, we are seeing that the customers are becoming more demanding of their networks, right? We've got and the networks need to be more resilient, they need to be more available, they need to be always available at any point of time. More technologies are now coming onto these networks like Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6E, PoE, 5G, cloud, CBRS, 400 gig kind of applications are now coming. So the demands from the network are increasing at a very, very high rate. So we're seeing a new type of a network emerging in the industry, and the network pundits call this hyperconnectivity. So what is hyperconnectivity? It's basically not just about connecting your devices in a building or the user is being connected to the network. It is also the subsystems that are running inside the building. They are also getting connected onto the network and providing information to the user. It could be for their safe being, it could be for security purpose, it could be for where they need to go and sit, or it could be a lot of other things, temperature control, environmental control conditions, all these things. So it's now basically the entire building which is now connecting and providing information to the end user. And we see that a lot of, and I'm sure you've seen, traditionally we used to have a lot of cables inside these facilities. And what we are seeing is that the number of ports are actually reducing. And because of the number of ports that are reducing, those ports which are currently available or present in the building, they have to be available at all times. So that is why these networks need to be of the highest performance, they need to be very, very resilient, and they need to be, available and of the highest quality. We see, and a lot of guests over here have already talked about this, the proliferation of IoT devices in these buildings, campuses, airports, manufacturing plants, everywhere. And because of IoT, we see that Wi-Fi or wireless technologies are actually going to play a very, very important role going forward. Because not just Wi-Fi, cellular, and because of these IoT devices now latching on. Now let's see some of the applications which we feel would be very, very relevant. And I know we've already talked about these, so I'm just going to take this really quickly over here. IoT-based energy meters. This is something which is very, very important for utility companies. And we see this is a solution that a lot of utility companies are trying to adopt as soon as possible. But the question is, if it is such a sought-after solution, why is this solution not really going up in a big way in the country? Probably the answer behind that could be, part of the answer could be, that the connectivity piece to these IoT devices or the energy meters are not really up to the mark. So connectivity is going to play a very important role in this particular area. We already talked about equipment maintenance, where you've got these IoT devices which will preempt any issues coming up in the future. Burglary or theft of power, that is another area where IoT can play a very, very important role. So any change in the consumption of power can really trigger and tell the customer or the organization, utility organization, that there is a problem over there, you need to go and investigate. Power rerouting and restoring. So another area where IoT can play an important role, where in case there is a blackout somewhere, you can reroute power from other areas across the state or the country and provide a feed electricity to that particular area. So these IoT devices can really help in doing that as well. And last but not least, process optimization, where if you've got processes in place, how can IoT really help in optimizing those processes? Instead of taking, let's say, an hour to respond to a problem, how can IoT really help you in getting that 1 hour maybe down to half an hour, maybe down to 20 minutes? So, but there is a big challenge with IoT today. And part of the problem is that we have got so many protocols or different types of IoT protocols running in the network, that they all are talking a different language, so to say. So we've got Bluetooth, we've got Zigbee, we've got Z-Wave, LoRa or LTE. All these are talking a different language. And the problem is, how do you integrate all the information that is coming from all these devices and then using that in data for the analytics that a lot of guests over here have spoken about. So that is one very big. Also remember, at the same time, we do have the traditional connectivity or the traditional infrastructure in place that was primarily used for your traditional applications like data, video, and voice. So if you've got that kind of infrastructure already in place, how about taking all these different languages, so to say, and taking them into a single gateway where it is translated to a common language, and then it is fed to the analytics. That will make the life of the IT team a lot easier, yes, and it will also really help the analytics to play a larger role in making more informed and better business decisions. So this is where Commscope can really, play a big role over here. So instead of having individual signals going to the third-party software, we could integrate the entire thing onto a gateway. Could be an access point or a Wi-Fi access point, and then you would take the entire data into the analytics. So that is one way that Commscope would really help, and we could have not just the traditional protocols like Zigbee and everything. It would be any new technology that could be coming up. We could integrate that into the gateway and then take that and use that for analytics. Now, a very important point is, even though we are talking about Wi-Fi, and that has another big advantage, that if all these signals can be connected through Wi-Fi or a cellular network, then the number of cables can be reduced. Great, that is really what everyone wants. But remember one thing, end of the day, everything has to be carried back on a physical medium. And that is where, we need to make sure that the proper connectivity solutions and products are in place so that we can, take full advantage of it. And if you also notice, most of the different types of services which are coming up, they're all coming up in the ceiling. Apart from the traditional services that we had, the phone, workstations, and printers, all the other services that we see are all coming up in the ceiling, whether it's building automation, sensors, access control, digital signages, Wi-Fi access point, intelligent lighting for that matter. So we have to look at a common, and one of the biggest problems that was is all these services were being addressed by different platforms. So they would have a different type of infrastructure available for different services. So the customer would need to get a hold of a lot of people, ask for coordination between them, and then eventually, get the project done. But with the convergence of technology onto Ethernet, what we are saying is that all these services can now use a single platform, the twisted pair cable. I know we are talking about a very minute thing in the entire scheme of things, but end of the day, this is the nervous system of your entire network, right? And with the introduction of these new technologies on internet, we see that, we can get all these services onto a single platform, and a single OEM or a single vendor can actually do the entire job for the customer instead of having to run after different people. With this introduction of, all the services coming onto the twisted pair, we are also seeing a very important question being asked. Primarily two big questions. What would be the requirement of my bandwidth, and whether the amount of power that needs to be sent, because remember, a lot of these applications require PoE, power over Ethernet. Now, for the benefit of those who are not aware about the terminology, basically PoE is when you deliver power and communication on the same cable. And instead of having to create a different power infrastructure for your end device. So if the question then arises is, how much bandwidth would I require? And then the second question is that if I'm delivering so much power on these cables, what could be the adverse effect of that onto the network? And unfortunately, when you start pumping in more and more power, one of the biggest issues is heat dissipation. As you put more power, more heat is dissipated, and that is where you need to have a different type of cabling system in place that will allow you to transmit this kind of power. And fortunately, with a lot of research and with a consensus of the entire industry, we have an answer in Cat6a. And Cat6a cables will actually help you in delivering more bandwidth, and also will help you in delivering the kind of power that you need to the end devices. And that is actually being reflected about what is happening in the industry. So by the end of 2022, what we see is that probably Category 6A is going to overtake Category 6 cables. And that is already happening. So we see a lot of adoption of Cat6 already into the industry. It's not just the trends, but even the standards are also talking about the same language. They're also recommending category 6A in any greenfield project or any greenfield facility, plant, anywhere that customers may be deciding to create. They're also recommending a category 6A cables to be laid instead of Cat 6. Now, I'm just going to take you through a couple of slides about where some other solutions can really help you in meeting those, challenging demands of IoT. Could be of, connecting different types of devices, or, even devices which are very, very far away, especially in the utility area where you have, kilometers of distances. You need to power on those things, and you need to also take the information. So you can, I'll be showing a couple of, solutions on that. So the IT world is basically divided into two things: IT operations and the OT operations, or operational technology applications, right? So we've got the IT traditional applications like, campus, data centers, in-building wireless, or enterprise networks. Then the OT applications come in. That is where we talk about HVAC, access control, security cameras, IoT, video conferencing. These are all OT applications that need to be also connected onto the network. And Commscope plays a very important role in all these areas. So we've got specific solutions that address all these different areas inside a campus, inside a manufacturing plant, or even airports for that matter. Some of the things that we do very well is the in-building, copper solutions that we give our customers. They are probably the state-of-the-art, most high-performing solutions. Remember, I said the number of nodes or number of ports are coming down. The ones which are left, they need to be always available. So this is where we can play a very, very important role. Data centers, another very critical area. What happens to all that data that you are collecting from the field? Where does that data go, right? End of the day, that data will go into a data center. That data center becomes the most critical IT asset for any customer, because you cannot afford that data center going down just because there was a connectivity issue or because you were not using the right product. So this is where we can also give you a lot of, assistance, where we've got specific solutions designed for data centers as well. Most of the largest data centers in the country and globally are also running currently on Commscope. Campus solutions, whether we are talking about outside plant fiber cables, whether we're talking about splice enclosures, cabinets, these are all elements that need to go into your network so that your network is of the highest performance and resilient, right? One of the problems that I have seen with customers is they really don't know what kind of a fiber cable they should be choosing for their network. And for everyone, almost 90%, 99% of the people, they say it's just a cable, really doesn't matter what I put in. Well, the fact is, if that cable really did not give you that performance, or let's say if something was to go wrong because you did not choose the right cable, then you're not just losing out on that particular area, you're losing out on a lot of revenue as well. So just by an incremental increase in price, you're losing out a very, very important piece of your network. And you've got different types of fiber cables, whether it is a lashed aerial cable or an underground cable, or whether it's multiple fibers, different types of fibers. So we've got all of that in our portfolio, and we can actually help you, everyone, in choosing the right fiber. The solutions that are deployed in all these areas, they need to be scaling up, and they should be able to scale down when the need arises. Right? You should be able to reconfigure your entire infrastructure very quickly. Instead of having to spend a couple of months just to reconfigure, the solution should be such that you should be able to really scale up, scale down really fast. Products that allow you to do this have to be placed in your network. So I'm just one thing, it have to be faster, they have to be simple to deploy, and installation should not become a hassle when you are trying to reconfigure all these different networks. Another area which I unfortunately find there is a major gap in the industry is that not using outdoor rated products when it comes to the passive part of the network. They have outdoor rated equipments, IP67, IP68, everything is there for all the equipments. But when it comes to the actual connectivity piece, for some reason customers tend to turn a blind eye towards that. Take it from me, this is again the most important part when you want to make sure that your equipment is always running and is always performing to its optimum performance. Now, there's a very common photograph up on the slide over here. And this is something that we all would see on our day-to-day basis when we go outside. We see these kind of poles inside the outside where they've got so many equipment hanging from it, and there is actually fundamentally, this is a wrong picture. There is something very fundamentally wrong with this. You've got any one device was to go wrong or go bad, the entire node or the entire place thing comes down. How good it is, there's no use of having so many things and having so many points of failure, so to say, right? So we have a very unique solution where we actually integrate power and communication onto the same platform. And now you can actually go up to 3 kilometers, turn on devices, communicate with devices, if you have a 15 watt per kind of a device at the endpoint, or up to 1.6 kilometers for 30 watts of power. Similarly, 650 meters for a 60 watt power. That is still 6.5 times more than your traditional copper solutions. So the takeaway is basically that the solution is there where you can integrate power and communication and still be able to turn on and communicate with your devices at a very far distance as well, without having to worry about engaging in the cost of power, creation of a power infrastructure, and as well as a communication infrastructure. The last solution, and I'm almost at the end of my presentation, I just want to talk about is automated infrastructure management. We've talked about a lot about management, but the management of passive cabling is very important. And this is where this particular solution really helps you, where you know what is the current connectivity, where is it connected, physically located, how is it connected. So in the event of a problem, you can easily locate the problem and rectify it in a matter of minutes, so to say, right? You can manage the entire infrastructure from sitting from a single location. So if you've got multiple sites across the state, you can manage the entire passive infrastructure sitting from a single location. So these are the kind of things that you would require to make sure that instead of deploying so much manpower everywhere, you could actually monitor it, and then in case there is a problem, you can rectify it really quickly. The solution will also allow you to map your entire assets onto a geo coordinates, so that you have the pinpoint accuracy of where your assets are across the geographic area or the spread that you have, right? So that is all I just wanted to talk about. Thank you. In case you've got any questions, do let me know. I'll be around here, and thank you very much.